We've got you covered all season long. Welcome to the BCSN Nation podcast.
All right, here it is. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 25 of the BCSN Nation podcast, presented to you by Buffalo Wild Wings. You ready? Let's go, sports bar. I know that makes Mike happy.
Absolutely.
I'm here with, of course, Mike Robinson, and this week we are bringing in the big guns. We got the man, Deon Thompson himself, filling in while Justin heads back from Italy. We feel so sorry for him.
Stop it, guys. Hey, it's an honor to be here with you, too. I've been watching the show all year. You guys been doing a great job, so thanks for throwing me a bone finally.
Hey, it is our honor, our privilege. Gentlemen, as the regular season gets wrapped up this week, we're also getting into some postseason play. My question for you guys today is, as the regular season wraps up, what are your thoughts, and would you rather have an end-of-the-season game that is a challenge for you, or something that maybe is a little bit lighter on the load to make you, settle down a little bit before postseason play starts, Deon?
For me, I honestly, I don't. You can make an argument for both, but depending on the personality of your team, you need a win, okay? Because you want to go in with some momentum into the postseason, because that's when it counts. Now, conversely, if you do lose, at least you can say, hey, you know what? We can scrap this. We got a whole new season we have to think about, and we got to get ready for it.
Mike?
Yeah, I think Deon's correct. I'm the kind of guy where if we're going into the postseason in that situation, I want to play against somebody hard because I want to challenge them at the end of the season. Say, hey, it's about to get real now. So let's go and see if we're ready to compete. Can we take everything we learned from the season and put it together? So I would like to see my guys go out and play a tough game at the end of the season and maybe get knocked around a little bit so I can pick them back up.
A little wake-up call before the postseason starts. We've definitely got some of those coming up this weekend. We'll get into that. Obviously, other than that, on to today's show, we've got our Sean's Irish Tavern Player of the Week, our Renewal by Anderson Clip of the Week. We'll talk about some of the best players in each conference this season. And, of course, we'll preview our Game of the Week and so much more. Make sure you're here every Wednesday at 4 p.m. on BCSN, checking out a new episode of the BCSN Nation podcast, or go anywhere you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or if you're sitting at work, go over to bcsnnation.com/podcast. Catch us over there. And make sure you follow us on all of our social media platforms. That's at BCSN Sports across platforms, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, Facebook. We are there. And we're going to start our Player of the Year conversations for our conferences in the TAAC. We'll get some TAACs rolling soon. And I think we'll start this one on the girls' side because something in me tells us we're going to have a pretty good consensus on who our Player of the Year is on the TAAC side of the girls' conference. I might as well say 1, 2, 3, and we all say it, but Deon, who do you think Player of the Year?
The obvious answer.
It's the obvious answer.
It's the obvious answer. I think everybody knows. It's been Kendall Braden. I mean, she's averaging almost 30 a game. There's nobody like her, in the area in that division. So I don't think anybody's going to question that pick. It's Kendall Braden.
I don't know how you could. Do you have any difference to give me, Mike Robb? I don't think you're going to.
I'm going to say it's Kendall Braden's jump shot. I mean,
that's jump shot specifically.
We're going to break it down. It's her jump
like
shot.
Them handles?
Yeah. Hey, it's the handles too, but it's either her handles or her jump shot. I'm going to go with her jump shot. So it's still Kendall Braden.
Yeah, the thing is, she's put work in. You watch, she's been working ever since she was a kid, putting the work in, putting the time in, and then she's going to the University of Toledo where I think she's going to have a great career, but that's the consensus. I don't think anybody will be mad or be texting us after,
I don't think we'll get hate mail for that one. So I think on the guys' side, there's a little more competition when you look at the stats, you look at how everybody's lined up, and you look at how do you value whether it's the best team in the conference or do you value who straight up the best player is going to be. You've got Nate Miles, obviously, almost 26 points a game, 9 rebounds. You've got Kalon Butler on the league-leading TC team. Or you've got CJ Majors averaging 19 and 8 and almost 11 rebounds per game as well. Who is it that you value as the Player of the Year for the guys' side of the TAAC? Mike, we'll start with you.
Well, you know what? It's politics as usual.
Uh-oh.
Politics as usual, as I'd say.
Here comes the hate mail.
Hate mail, bring it on. You see my Twitter tag on in there. Go ahead and send us something. Right to it. And don't send it from a burner. Send it from your real account.
Say it with your chest.
Say it with your chest. The main thing is I believe that, when you're looking at this list here, obviously Butler – he has the better team around him.
Right.
When you look at the TAAC, and obviously they beat, Emmanuel Christian. But as a sophomore, Nate Miles, in my opinion, he's the best player in his league up and down. Obviously you can make him note for CJ Majors. He had a great season so far, but I truly believe that is Miles and his ability to play the game the way he does, and he's going to continue to grow and get better. And also he's the most recruitable kid that I think in that league. You look at some of the other guys that could potentially be brought up in that list. I don't see anybody else with Division I offers or being able to go play at that next level to make them, stand out to be the, player of the league. Now, there are some guys who are really good role players that help their team be successful, but I think that the best individual player is him.
Deion, you got any argument elsewise?
Well, I'm going to argue a little bit. I do agree with you what you said about 𝗧𝗏 𝗏𝘆, but he's on an outstanding team. You got 3 other guys that are averaging double figures. Yeah. So one of the ways I look at it is, okay, if I take this guy off this team, how effective are they? I think if you take Nate Miles away, there's no question they're not the team they are. You take 𝗧𝗏 𝗏𝘆 off, which we saw with Kanye Gaston, who I thought was a very similar player last year. He didn't play, and Toledo Christian was still very effective. You got Xander Hessen, you got Carter Kester. He has a great supporting cast around him. Now, we don't want to penalize him for that, but I think when you're talking about, to me, the player that stands out the most, it has to be Nate Miles. I mean, he's only a sophomore, 6'6", and it's how he does it. He does it on the inside, he does it on the outside. He is clearly at the top of everybody's scouting report. It's not taking anything away from C.J. Majors, but I think Nate Miles is a little bit different.
I think that's kind of where I'm standing too. I think you said if you take this guy off the team, it is straight up just a different team if you are Emmanuel Christian. And so we've decided we got Nate Miles, Kendall Braden, or those are our 2 players for the TAAC. We're going to move on to somebody who's just straight up our player of the week. And for that, we're going to head to Northview. All right, our Sean's Irish Tavern player of the week this week, like I said, at Northview is Jackson 𝗦𝗫𝘀 at the end of the Southview-Northview matchup. Gets the game-winning bucket with like 4.2 seconds left off a little tip-in shot. Handed their cross-city rivals a loss, their first loss, I believe, in the Cardinal Division this season. Shout out Jackson 𝗦𝗫𝘀. He's our final Sean's Irish Tavern player of the week winner. Clutch moment for 𝗦𝗫𝘀, clutch moment for Northview at the end of that game. Was there anything you saw in his play or just in that play period in general that really stuck out for you, Mike?
Well, just being clutch. I mean, it's something that you either have or you don't, and also it comes with being a little bit lucky. But the one thing about luck is I really don't believe in luck. I feel like the harder you work, the luckier you get. And, and those are things that he's done. He's taken those shots before, and he's trusted his teammates to be able to have the confidence in him to make that opportunity happen for his team. So we know Southview, Northview is this huge in-town rivalry, whether it's football, basketball, hockey, swimming, it could be table tennis. They're going to compete to the top level, but that battle right there, and to be able to pull that victory off, I think that he deserves all the Player of the Week awards.
Yeah, and he talks about, Mike just mentioned, it's not always about being luck, right? You have to work yourself, be in the right place at the right time. Jackson 𝗦𝗫𝘀 did exactly that.
You got to look at it because I think it was Barneski that missed the shot.
Yep, pulls up the jumper.
And he's the best player on that team, but you saw with 𝗦𝗫𝘀, he stayed with it. The tip in, to me, that's just wanting a little bit more, and you want a little bit more in that play, and you saw the result of it. And it's always a big rivalry game. It was a great crowd. Rhett loves the student section. We had a huge student section out there, but I think he was well deserving of this award.
Absolutely. Clutch performance in the final moments of a huge divisional matchup. Get a win over your cross-city rivals. Shout out Jackson 𝗦𝗫𝘀, our Sean's Irish Tavern player of the week, our final Sean's Irish Tavern player of the week of this season. And now we're going to get into the big conference. All right, we're going to go NLL, our player of the year picks. I think we're going to have some arguments back and forth here, a little bit less than in the TAAC. I'll start with where I think we're going to have the least argument, and that's the guys' side of the Cardinal Division. I feel like, again, this is another one where we're going to have a pretty consensus pick on who our player of the year is for the boys' side of the Cardinal Division. Mike, we'll have you go first. Who's your player of the year on the boys' side of NLL Cardinal?
Y'all want to say it with me?
1, 2, 3. Micah Bays.
Give it to Bays. I mean,
I disagree.
You can disagree.
Here we go. I'm ready for this.
I'm gonna make my argument here. I
Please
think
do.
that every time I watch Micah Bays, obviously he's clearly the best player on this team. He has to shoulder the load. If he doesn't shoulder the load, they're really going to struggle. And I feel like that's the same kind of statement that you make with Nate Miles as well, with Emmanuel Christian. But I feel like Micah Bays, he earned the respect throughout the season. He's always consistent, and I think that plays a part in it. But I'm interested to hearing what the basketball savant Deion had to say.
I'm going to ask you guys a quick question. What do you think the stronger side, the Buckeye division or the Cardinal side?
I think we would both say the Buckeye side, yeah.
Right, so the Buckeye side. And in my opinion, you got to go with Javonte Hill. and I'll tell you why.
On the Buckeye side.
Yeah, who's your
On the
Cardinal side? That's got to be Micah, right?
Yeah, I thought we were talking about
we'll
NL.
go Buckeye.
the Cardinal
You can
side.
kick us off. You can kick us off on the Buckeye side.
No,
Give me it.
I'm agree with you in Micah Beige. Now,
Okay.
See, I'm looking down the
The
list.
whole NLL.
I'm looking at the whole NLL. See, you guys are trying to break it up. Okay.
Hey, we want to go just
I'm
one
with you
straight
there.
one.
Okay. Hey, Micah Beige, you'll get no argument. I think Mike is very smooth. I think he's done a great job, especially being with a new coach
Yes.
this year. I mean, no argument. I thought we were talking about the NLL, so I'm sorry.
You already tipped us off.
Dion, you are free. Start us off.
But
with
can I go?
Buckeye.
Can
Yeah,
I
go
go to the
Javonte.
Buckeye?
What you got?
Please, because
Okay.
I agree with you already.
Okay, now, and this isn't taking anything away from Antoine West, okay? But this is the way I looked at it, okay? I looked at, first of all, who's leading their team. Okay, you could say both. Okay,
Yeah,
Antoine
sure.
West, Javonte Hill. Now, to me, this is where it gets, where you gotta delineate. Now, when they went head-to-head,
I'm on the
Okay.
same page. I'm ready.
Javonte Hill averaged like 20 points each time, okay? Antoine West, I don't think he got to double figures.
Not once.
17 combined in both matchups.
Right. So you look at it that way, and then they were beat by double figures each game. Now, I know what some people are going to say. They're going to say, well, Antoine West, he's more highly touted. And hey, you won't get the argument here. But we're
right.
talking about a team that wasn't picked to win the division.
Production.
We all know Whitmer on paper loaded, okay? And Javonte Hill, each game, to me, he showed up. You take him off that team, they're not the same group of guys. What he did against Ottawa Glandorf and Ohio State recruit, he had 30. So if you're going to tell me that this guy doesn't deserve the Player of the Year, beating the consensus best team, all year around, I mean, I just find it hard to make an argument for him not being Player of the Year.
Mike Reb, I know you're on the same page.
Yeah.
What's your talk for it?
There's no argument because Javonte Hill is that guy. I mean, he showed up in the big time moments. Big time players do that. And the one thing that I got to put on there is that he played football. He's tough. You go out there and watch him on that basketball court.
He had a couple highlights on the gridiron.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
He is, and the thing is, and I think when you get basketball players that play football, they have a different respect for the game. They come out with a different mentality. They play toughness. They don't play this finesse type of style of basketball. They aggressive and they attack the rim and they do the things that you want. He gets rebounds, he gets buckets, but he does it, fearlessly. I actually just saw a clip and I tagged you in it with Tyson Anderson dunking, and it was Dion calling like, "Hey, he more than a football player." That's how I feel about Javonte Hill. Like, he is a dominant specimen, and then Antoine West, like I said, taking nothing away from him.
Yeah.
He didn't step up in the big time moments, which I feel like took him out of contention for this, especially when it came against playing against Finland.
Yeah, I think we can stand here and say that Antoine West is the better Division I prospect of the two of
No
those. He's
question.
got the looks
Yes.
coming in. We know where all those are coming from. But when you go head-to-head, I think you can't argue that it was Javonte Hill, right? He was the leader and the catalyst for those teams. You talk about the physicality. That's kind of Finley's MO.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
he brings part of that along with, obviously, Ryan Montgomery and the other players on that team. But Javonte Hill, I think, obviously is our pick for the Buckeye Player of the Year. The girls' side, I think, for the NLL is pretty easy to decide between the two, right? We've got Elise Bender, already voted the NLL Player of the Year, and then Destiny Robinson for the Cardinal side, Fremont Ross. Elise Bender setting all kinds of records in Anthony Wayne history, and she's still got more time to play, which is, we've talked about that earlier in the season on this podcast, insane. Shout out, we'll say, Javonte Hill, Micah Bays on the boys' side, Elise Bender, Destiny Robinson on the girls' side. No arguments on that side, on the girls?
No,
I
I
think
have
we're
zero
good.
arguments
Yeah.
on that. I mean, at least their team has a chance to go down to the state.
Yeah,
Okay, and Destiny
that Anthony
Robinson,
Wayne team is loaded. We know it.
the job that she's done, for Fremont, and she's going to be another player that plays at the University of Toledo.
Yep.
So, no, zero arguments.
Hey, Coach Cullip doing pretty well when she's pulling in two of our Player of the Year picks on the BCSN Nation podcast. And now we'll go from our Player of the Years to our Clip of the Week, brought to you by Renewal by Anderson. All right, our Clip of the Week this week, we're heading across all sports. We're talking about Javonte Hill, his football skills. We're on the basketball court. Now we're going over to the ice. This is Clay and Northview in the regional semis last week, or quarterfinals. Northview, the reigning quarterfinal champions, or regional champions from last year. Clay pulling the upset. We're in OT on a power play. Xander Kurt gets the pass, slings one in. Game. He said game. We're in OT. I don't need it. We're going home. We're going home with the upset. Clay, a huge win. They're having a great season, undefeated in their conference for hockey this season, pulling the upset. They're the 8 seed over Northview's 4 seed. And that, I mean, what else do you say other than I call game?
You know what? shouts out to Oregon, because what they're doing basketball, they used to just be a wrestling school. Let's be honest, it was wrestling and girls.
I got no
sports.
problem with that one.
And now what they're doing in hockey, as you see here, what they're doing on the basketball court, it's just been a great time for those guys out there.
Yeah, they're filling in all the seats everywhere. It was tough for them. The kids had to decide if they wanted to go watch a hockey game or if they wanted to go to the basketball game last Friday. They had to divvy up, pick, draw straws, who was going where, I think. Clay obviously wins this one, 1-0. Their first white division team since 2016 to reach the district semifinals. Shout out to Clay, Xander, Kurt, getting that pass from Grady Minnick for the game winner last weekend. And now, if you want to see more clips just like this one, make sure you head over to our TikTok. That's at BCSN Sports. We post daily clips, all the best highlights from the area. Every sport. We got hockey on there. I'm going to throw some wrestling at you, so stay tuned. Make sure you're refreshing your For You page. I got a little bit of that to throw for you. Make sure you help us get to 10,000 followers. Now, we do not have a Unison student section of the week this week because we're getting you all ready. We're getting you all amped up for our student section of the season. So make sure you're sending us your stuff, hashtag SSOTW, to stay in the running for our Unison student section of the season. And now we're going to move to the City League. I know Mike's super excited. It's his favorite place to go. We'll start with the girls' side, all right? We've got, I think, two from the same team are probably my two top picks, or you go to start for the backup. Who is your player of the season for the City League on the girls' side? We'll start Dion.
I don't think you can argue. It's got to be Bria Jefferson.
Yeah, it's tough to argue anywhere else, right?
I mean, 5'5", and look what she's done towards the end of the season. She's another one averaging almost 30 a clip. And we just talked about Elise Bender and Anthony Wayne, right? Mm-hmm. Which team do you think in the area played them the best? It was Rogers.
It was Rogers, yeah.
They only lost by 7 points.
And who helped them get there?
Yes.
43, right?
So I don't think you can argue her. She's been outstanding, and I got to go with her.
It's the same, and watching her, watching a couple of games, and just how dominant she was in the City League tournament, and just saying it just looks easy out there for her. And when anybody can go out and play a sport and make it look easy, Dion can tell you play at the high level. It's not easy. And if you can make it look easy, that's because you put the work in. And so Rogers, they've been dominant for year after year. On the girls' side, they've had some ups and downs, but they continuously continue to churn out excellent point guards and ball handlers, and that's a credit to their coaching staff.
Yeah, I think my secondary shout-out for this would be Nyra Clark. Obviously, almost 16 points, 12.5 boards a game. Also, for Rogers, a big reason why they were your city champs on the girls' side. So we'll hop to the boys' side.
Can we shout out Kamora Sylvester?
That was my third pick. I think if there's another person to give it to, it's Sylvester at start.
I mean, you think about it.
Stepping into a huge role, right?
Exactly. The top player goes out, and she stepped up big time, you know. And
absolutely.
And she was another player we didn't talk about at the beginning of the year a lot, but I thought she stepped up and did a great job for start.
It's tough for start, right? Because you look at what could have been if Sylvester was able to play like that, and if Sinai had been healthy, that team would have been deadly, and they already got themselves a City League championship. So shout out Start. Shout out Sylvester. Great season for her as well. We'll go to the boys' side, where I think we might have a little more argument on who's going to be our player of the year. Mike, I'll let you get rolling. I got a feeling I know where you're going to go, but I want to hear it.
All right. Well, this is probably one of the tougher ones, and it's again, politics as usual. Hate mail, send it to the Twitter account at the bottom.
That is at Coach_Mike Rob.
Yeah, Coach_Mike Rob. Hey, remember, no burner accounts, all right? Say it with your chest.
Talking to you, Kevin Durant.
It's tough. It's very tough to make this decision. I thought about this. I debated about it. And you talk about the point that Dion made. You take one player off the team. Mm-hmm. What is that team? You look at Scott. You take Daryl Barnett off. I don't know that they're the same basketball team. But on the flip side, you look at Lima Senior, and you look at Foster, and you take that super freshman off. You cannot discount him because he's a freshman.
Absolutely.
You cannot. And I feel like that's happened in the past with like a Jerry Easter at times. He's got freshman. He's got time to get that award later years. As much as I love Daryl Barnett, and I think that he's a super athlete, I do think it's Foster who is the player of the league because they won the title. Right. They've dominated their competition. They played a lot of tough competition. And I think it's a toss-up. I wouldn't be upset if Daryl Barnett got it. But I think Foster is the player of the year in my opinion.
Got a rebuttal?
Oh, man. See, you're not making this fun, Mike. I like Foster a lot, and I do agree with what you said about the freshman. And there are a lot of people saying he's been the best freshman since we've seen Xavier. I've seen the athleticism, and to play point guard as a freshman, to lead his team to the city, to come into our city and actually win it is outstanding. And you talk about upside. You talk about a guy that has so much potential, and he's very poised beyond his years. You know, sometimes when you look at a kid that comes from 8th grade playing high school, the game is so much faster, particularly if you're going from varsity, you know, from 8th grade to varsity. Mm-hmm. To me, he's made that adaptation, And, you know, shouts out to Coach Q and Lima. It's not taking away anything from Daryl Barnett. I think Daryl Barnett is, to me, he's like a Javonte Hill. You know, football guy, loves hoop, and just a winner. He's a competitor.
Yes.
So you get those two mixed in, very hard to beat. But I got to go with Foster and Lima Sr., guys.
Yeah, I agree. I think Foster is the guy because you look at all the injuries that Lima Sr. had. And we're already talking about them being a team that's hot at the right time, and they're getting really good. But if you take Sean Foster off that team and stack that with all the other injuries they had, I don't think they're your City League champions. I don't think they're a team that you don't want to touch right now in the playoffs like they are. So Sean Foster, I think, easy for our pick for the guys' side. Bria Jefferson for the girls' side. And now we'll get into what's going on this Friday. Our brought to you by Dunn Chevy in Oregon Game of the Week. All right, I alluded to it last week. We've got a theme that's been forming in our games of the week. It's another rematch. This week we've got number 2 in the state, Toledo Christian, hosting number 4, Emmanuel. They get a second game of the week in a row. This is, again, a rematch. January 19th, EC falls to Toledo Christian. Their only TAAC loss of the season for Emmanuel. How does the rematch stack up? How are things going to be different, or how are they going to be the same, Dion?
All right, no, we didn't pissed off Kaylon Butler. All right, he's going to watch this. He's going to win. I think Toledo Christian, I've been saying this, if you guys been watching Friday, they've been the hottest team for the last 3-4 weeks, okay? Absolutely. To me, I think that they're unstoppable at this point because here's the thing, and it's not taking away anything from Emmanuel. Obviously, you know, Brown, outstanding player. Miles, but they have to do too much. I mean, they got to score almost 60 points a game. So we talk about Butler. We talked about Gaston. But what about Carter Kester?
Yeah.
The lone junior who played in the big game a couple years ago and knocked off Emmanuel when they were loaded, okay? And then you got Xander Hessen. Here's a guy, 6'6". We don't talk about him much, but he's shooting almost 50% from the three.
Right.
Like, you're not going to find 4 guys off in one night. Okay, and what if Nate Miles gets in foul trouble? Because we've seen it happen before.
Right.
I think Maumee Valley did a good job of getting in foul trouble. So if you get one of those two guys, if they're not on, it could be a long night for them.
Yeah, I agree. You know, I think it's a tough challenge, and then also you got to factor in coaching, right? So you look at coaching, and you know you take nothing away from Coach Said. You know, he's a great young coach. Mm-hmm. You know, but when you get out there and you go with the veterans, it's tough. And just to make a comparison to football, because that's what I do. You know, you look at like Coach Dempsey, a guy that's been coaching for as long as he's been coaching, and then you take a new coach, you know, who's only been coaching for a few years. He's got a lot of tricks in the bag. You know, he's been through a lot of the situations, and that's the same thing that you're seeing at Toledo Christian.
Right.
This is a coach that's played in these big games.
Right. We've been there, done that.
Been there, been a part of it. And as a young coach, you got to take those lumps and bumps so you can learn how to get over those next humps. I've been through it, you know, when I was coaching, you know, so the big thing here is, can we see Nate Miles drop 50? Because that's what he's going to have to do. Can you see Brown step up and drop 30?
Another 30
That's
himself,
what they're going to have to do. And then they're going to need their supporting cast to really step up in the bench as well. And it's too much to overcome. But at the same time, it's not that it can't be done. It's just unlikely.
I think if you are Emmanuel, honestly, you want to keep the score. If you can keep the score 50 or lower, even though that's not who they are, I think you have a better chance because you have to give your guys some rest too. Because we saw Toledo Christian, they're going to get up and down in transition. Mm-hmm. Okay, they're going to press you a lot. They try to wear you down, and your complementary players have to step up huge. I agree with you. We know what you're going to get out of Nate. We know we're going to get out of Brown, but can the complementary guys, can they step up when it's their time?
I think the big thing for this matchup is Nate Miles doesn't get a lot of guys in the TAAC that are 6'6" and willing to go with him. Xander Hessen is that. Xander Hessen is not going to shy away from contact if you want to come down to the paint. He's also not scared to step out and guard you or hit a three for himself. You talked about the three-point percentage he shoots, and you said Toledo Christian, 4 guys averaging over 11 points. Kalon Butler, 18. Kester, 16. Gaston, 14. And you got Xander Hessen, almost 12 points a game. The depth is what feels like the major difference in here, and we know we're going to get 50, potentially 60 out of Jalen Brown and Nate Miles, but where else? Can somebody else tack in 12, 14 points? Because that's going to be the difference. It was a 5-point game last time, and those, 6-8 points from your bench guys is really what differentiates the win or loss, especially in a game that is going to decide who wins the TAAC title. This is the TAAC title game.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure if this is senior night there, if this is their last home game, because if it is, it's just much more added on to it because you got to go over to Toledo Christian.
Oh, yeah,
they already beat you at home. Now you got to go on the road and do it. So this is a huge game. So I would say the underdogs is Emmanuel, and if Nate Miles can come out and do something crazy, that'd be the only way I can see them winning. But it is going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot for them to overcome it. But I do see this being a 6-point game.
Yeah, I can't see the spread being much. Now we're giving Bulletin Board material. We said we already gave it to Kaylon. Now we're giving it to EC. So we're going to pump everybody up.
Make sure game.
Exactly. We're going to get everybody fired up so we got the best game possible Friday night. You can check this one out, 7:15 p.m. Go to the BCSN app. Check it out. Obviously, we'll be checking in plenty all night on Game Day Nation over on the NLL Network this week because the Walleye at home. We'll get more into that and what to expect Friday night, what else is going on. But now, as we've done every week for the last few weeks, we're going to check out one of our top 20 female athletes of the last 20 years in the BCSN era. And this time, we're going to talk about 𝗦𝗫𝗍 Bishop, one of the best female basketball players I think any of us can agree we've seen in the area over the last 20 years especially. She was a number 34 prospect in the country when she came out, according to ESPN, and the number 3 post player in her class coming out. Obviously, led Start to 2 City League titles in her 3 years, an 80-15 record for 𝗦𝗍𝗍 Bishop while she was at Start, which is an insane mark to match. Her senior season, 16.5 points a game, 8.5 boards, 3.8 blocks a game. She was a Blade Player of the Year, All-City, All-District, obviously All-Ohio. From there, she goes to the University of Kentucky, heads down to Lexington. She played in 134 career games for the Wildcats. That was 4th all-time when she left. She's 4th at the time in Kentucky history in blocks, 152. She was 9th all-time in blocks per game with almost 1.2. 5 career triple-doubles in her time with the Wildcats. Over 500 career boards for 𝗦𝗍𝗍 while she's down there. Senior season, she was 3rd in the SEC with almost 1.8 blocks per game. After she leaves Kentucky, she plays a little bit of basketball over in Australia professionally for the Australia State League Hume in 2019. She averaged 11.5, 6.3 boards, and 1.3 blocks per game in her time there. Deanna, is there a memory of watching 𝗦𝗍𝗍 play that you remember from her time at Start?
Listen, first of all, that Start team now, it wasn't just 𝗦𝗍𝗍. She was loaded
they were
up.
good.
But we have to talk about 𝗦𝗍𝗍. Now, what made her great, okay? And a lot of people don't understand this when you talk about big people. Okay? The way she can get up and down the floor.
She moved, right.
She could beat anybody down the floor. She would get layup after layup. A lot of times you see people who are, her size, 6'3", and they just don't have the agility and mobility and the ability to make layups. Mm-hmm. I know we think it's a given, but if you watch the girls' game, there's a lot of missed layups, okay? Mm-hmm. She didn't miss a lot of layups. And I think it attributed to her success. And you're right. Her length, she knew how to play defense. She was just a great athlete. So I remember those games when she was around, when Wade played, and it was great.
Kudos, 𝗦𝗍𝗍 Bishop, one of our 20 best female athletes of the last 20 years here in the BCSN era.
Well, put that picture back up.
Hey, we're going to pull up a graphic is what we're going to do. We're going to show you what to expect this Friday, aside from our game of the week. Let's see that thing. Come on, Cisco, I believe in you. There it is.
Hey.
All right, we've got boys basketball. We talked about our game of the week, right? Toledo Christian hosting Emmanuel. We've got Perrysburg and Findlay, a huge one in the NLL Buckeye. Findlay can seal the deal on a Buckeye Division title with that win. Napoleon at Clay. We talked about the resurgence of Clay basketball over the last couple of weeks here. We've got Start at Whitmer, the battle for Tremainsville, a huge one, 7:15 p.m. on the BCSN app. Northview and Anthony Wayne. Anthony Wayne got a big win over Perrysburg last night, and not to mention Perrysburg. Coach Boyd's looking for win number 600 in his career in that one. Cardinal Stritch at Northwood, and then, of course, high school hockey. We've got the regional semifinals, 6 p.m. on the BCSN app. We've got everything you need for a Friday night, and don't forget to check all of it out on BCSN Game Day Nation. Mike Robb, I see you pointing. What you got?
I got a question. So with this Perrysburg-Findlay game,
Yeah.
what happens if Perrysburg wins?
We got a 3-way tie, or 2-way tie at the top, right? Whitmer and Findlay, but Findlay, I assume, gets the tiebreaker with the 2 head-to-head wins over Whitmer. So I would assume
I would think
that would make Findlay right the NLL Buckeye. So it seems like they got a win-win, right? It doesn't matter.
Got you. Okay.
Maybe they give Coach Boyce a gift of his 600th win. I don't think that's going to happen.
That's tough.
I don't think Coach Rucky's going to let that happen. As much respect as I know he has for Coach Boyce, I don't think he's going to gift wrap him win number 600 of his career. Plenty of huge matchups, though, this Friday as we wrap up the regular season, because it's almost postseason time, gentlemen, and I know you are as excited as I am for that one. We got postseason hockey already, right? So that is going to do it. All right, that's a wrap for us this week. Make sure you tune in right here next Wednesday at 4 p.m., February 28th on BCSN. Listen to our podcast over on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, you name it, we are there. Or go to bcsnnation.com/podcast. Follow the three of us you see at the table. We got at Deon Thompson, or at Thompson Jiu-Jitsu over on the gram. Coach _Mike Robb on Twitter, Mike Robb, or myself at Carnes Brandon. And make sure you follow at BCSN Sports anywhere you can hit the dang follow button. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.